If you've been watching the devotionals for a little while, you might remember how I once talked about my fashion choices when I was in middle school. They weren't great. What's amazing about our God, though, is that throughout Scripture, He doesn't use the people who have the fancy outfits and have everything together and perfect inside of their lives. He uses broken people. Jesus took a hold of my life as a middle schooler. There was this moment when I went to a summer camp and the preacher was talking about giving God our futures. He was talking about how we could honor God with our lives, whether that was being a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher, mailman, garbage man, stay-at-home mom or dad, whatever it was, that we could honor God through that. And to be honest, I was shaken. I felt like God wanted something from me, and whatever it was going to happen down at that altar. I was trembling as I walked down to that place to meet God. When I went down there, I gave God my future, but He did something else in me. He transformed not only my future, but my present reality. I really feel like God had broken my heart for the people around me, for my peers, ultimately for teenagers. I could see clearly the broken and unstable place that time in life was and is. And I wanted to pour God's love into other people. And I realized that God was calling me into ministry for Him. Now, I would love to sit here and say that everything since then has been peachy and, man, I've just been on fire for Jesus 100% since then. But to be honest, I've had a lot of mountaintops and a few valleys along the way. Maybe you know what that's like. I kept climbing for higher mountaintops and shallower valleys, though. And one day I kind of looked back and was amazed to see the distance that God had taken me. One of those valleys happened in high school. I had finally started to figure out this whole dressing thing, right? I got a new hairdo, got some clothes that actually matched a little bit, at least a little bit better. And to be honest, I kind of thought that I was all that in a bag of chips. Or at least that's what I pretended while I was actually battling my own insecurities still. I was pretty good at computers at the time and technology as well, and I had jumped into taking a bunch of college classes for free at our local state college through my high school's dual enrollment program. And somehow I landed in a Cisco networking class, and I came out with the highest score in the class. And we're talking big money jobs here that you could get from this certification. And I got caught up in this idea and this vision that was what life was about. And I had just come out of a time where I had dedicated spending an hour a day reading scripture and praying throughout the Lenten season. And I went to this conference called Promise Keepers. And at this conference, I realized that I had drifted from my calling that God had placed on my life. And I just had this epiphany that there was an enemy that was after me to steal, kill, and destroy. And if I wasn't intentional with where my life was heading, that He would be intentional about where He wanted to take me. And at the end of this Promise Keepers conference, they gave us a small nail with a verse on the back. And this nail I actually wore around my neck with a ceiling fan chain that I got from my dad's fan store that he managed. And the verse on the back would become my life verse that would define my walk with God since then. And the verse it referenced was Galatians 2:20. It says, "My old self has been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting in the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me." My old life had no more power over me than what I was giving it. And this verse became the compass in my life that I could guide my decisions and destinations by as I sought to grow closer to Jesus. Thanks for taking the time and listening to part of my story. And I want you to know that it's never too late to consider what the compass is in your life, what the thing is that's guiding your thoughts and your actions. Is there any time that you found yourself picking up that old, dead thing that Christ has saved you from and attempted to kind of resuscitate it? I would encourage you, drop it. It's not worth it. Let the light into those places and allow God's transforming power to separate you from those things as far as the east is from the west. Your old self has been crucified with Christ. Now Christ lives in you. Walk in that today.